The Lost City of Atlantis, Fact or Legend? What if the most enduring myth of a lost civilization wasn't a myth at all, but a buried memory? What if a powerful, technologically advanced empire vanished beneath the waves, not in a fantastical cataclysm, but in a series of events so catastrophic they were deemed impossible, relegated to the realm of fiction? Prepare a journey into the heart of a mystery that has baffled historians, archaeologists, and dreamers for millennia. For centuries, we've dismissed it as a fable, a cautionary tale. But as we peel back the layers of time, confront seismic shifts in geological understanding, and re-examine ancient texts with modern eyes, a chilling possibility emerges. Atlantis was real, and its fate holds a terrifying lesson for humanity. The whispers of Atlantis began with Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, around 360 BCE. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he presented not a fleeting fantasy, but a remarkably detailed account of a sophisticated island civilization. Plato described Atlantis as a naval power, greater and more wondrous than any existing kingdom, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, in the Atlantic Ocean. This empire, he claimed, existed approximately 9,000 years before his own time, flourishing with immense wealth, advanced engineering, and a unique form of government. The Atlanteans were originally a virtuous and noble people, descended from Poseidon, the god of the sea. Poseidon fell in love with a mortal woman named Cleito and fathered 5 sets of twin boys, dividing the island into 10 kingdoms, each ruled by one of his sons. Atlas, the eldest, became the supreme ruler, and the entire island was named after him. They built magnificent cities, intricate canal systems, and colossal temples adorned with gold, silver, and precious stones. Their capital city was a marvel of concentric rings of land and water, connected by bridges and tunnels, boasting a central acropolis with a grand palace and a temple dedicated to Poseidon. Here, a massive golden statue of the sea god rode 6 winged horses, surrounded by 100 Nereids on dolphins. The Atlanteans possessed advanced knowledge in metallurgy, creating a mysterious shimmering metal called orichalcum, which they used to adorn their temples and buildings, making the entire island glow. For generations, the Atlanteans adhered to the laws of Poseidon and lived in harmony, leveraging their vast natural resources and incredible ingenuity. They possessed wisdom, temperance, and a deep respect for the divine. But as centuries turned into millennia, the divine portion of their lineage became diluted. Greed, arrogance, and a lust for power began to corrupt their souls. Their noble nature eroded, replaced by an insatiable desire for conquest. They waged war against other nations, eventually setting their sights on conquering all of Europe and Asia. It was then, as Plato recounted, that Athens, a burgeoning democracy, rose to oppose the Atlantean expansion. The Athenians, embodying the ideals of virtue and freedom, managed to defeat the formidable Atlantean military, liberating the enslaved nations. But the retribution for Atlantis' hubris was not dealt by mortals. Zeus, observing their moral decay and aggressive tendencies, decided to punish the Atlanteans for their wickedness. In a single dreadful day and night, violent earthquakes and cataclysmic floods struck the island. Atlantis, with all its grandeur, sank into the depths of the ocean, swallowed up by the sea. Plato insisted that this was not a myth, but a true history passed down to him through generations, originating from the Egyptian priests of Sais to Solon, the Athenian statesman. He claimed that the mud from the sunken island made the seas impassable for many years afterward. For centuries, this account was largely treated as an allegorical tale, a philosophical tool for Plato to illustrate his ideals of a perfect state contrasted with a corrupt empire. The scale of its destruction, its immense age, and its seemingly fantastical elements led mainstream scholars to dismiss it as pure fiction. But what if those dismissals were premature? What if the myth of Atlantis, like many ancient stories, contained a kernel of astonishing truth, distorted and magnified by time and oral tradition? The first major shift in perspective began in the late 19th century with Ignatius Donnelly. In his influential 1882 book, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, Donnelly proposed that Atlantis was a real sunken continent, the source of all major ancient civilizations. He argued that all known ancient cultures, the Egyptians, Mayans, Incas, and even the indigenous peoples of North America, shared common linguistic, architectural, and mythological themes because they were all offshoots of a superior Atlantean mother civilization. Donnelly meticulously compared pyramids, mummification practices, flood myths, and sun worship across continents, suggesting that a common origin point in the Atlantic was the only logical explanation. Donnelly's work, though speculative and lacking rigorous scientific proof by modern standards, ignited a public fascination with Atlantis that has never truly subsided. He laid the groundwork for future generations to consider the possibility of a lost, advanced civilization, not just as a philosophical concept, but as a tangible archaeological mystery. His theories, while often ridiculed by academia, resonated with a public hungry for extraordinary explanations to enigmatic ancient ruins. The sheer scale of ancient megalithic structures like Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, or the precision of Egyptian pyramids often seemed to defy the commonly accepted technological capabilities of their time. Could Atlantis provide the missing link? The early 20th century saw the rise of geology and oceanography, gradually revealing the dynamic nature of Earth's crust. Plate tectonics, a theory that revolutionized geology, explained how continents drift, mountains form, and earthquakes occur. This understanding, however, made the existence of a sunken continent in the Atlantic, as proposed by Donnelly, highly improbable. Continents don't simply sink, they move and collide over millions of years. This seemed to put the final nail in Atlantis' coffin for many scientists. Yet the allure persisted. If not a sunken continent, then perhaps a massive island. This led to a more localized search. Many potential candidates for Atlantis began to emerge, each with its own compelling, albeit often circumstantial, evidence. The most famous and widely accepted real-world Atlantis theory centers around the volcanic island of Santorini, specifically the Minoan city of Akrotiri in the Aegean Sea. In the mid-20th century, archaeological excavations on Santorini uncovered the remarkably preserved ruins of Akrotiri, buried under layers of volcanic ash, much like Pompeii. What was discovered was astounding. Akrotiri was a thriving, sophisticated city of the Minoan civilization, boasting multi-story buildings, advanced plumbing systems, including hot and cold running water, stunning frescoes, and elaborate pottery. This city existed around 1600 BCE, long before Plato's time, but its sudden and cataclysmic destruction by a massive volcanic eruption, the Minoan eruption or Thera eruption, fit eerily well with Plato's description of Atlantis' demise. The eruption was so powerful that it caused tsunamis hundreds of feet high, capable of wiping out entire coastlines. Could the story of Akrotiri, passed down through Egyptian priests who had strong ties with the Minoans, eventually reach Solon and then Plato, becoming the basis for his Atlantis narrative, albeit with vastly exaggerated dates and geographical shifts? This theory gained significant traction. It provided a tangible, archaeologically supported event that mirrored aspects of the Atlantis legend. It showed that ancient civilizations could indeed be wiped out suddenly and dramatically by natural forces. However, there were significant discrepancies. Plato explicitly stated Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic, not in the Aegean Sea, and the timeline was off by thousands of years. Plato claimed 9,000 years. Akrotiri was destroyed about 1,200 years before Plato's time. Could Plato have misinterpreted, exaggerated, or deliberately altered details for his philosophical purposes? Or was Akrotiri merely a similar event, not the true Atlantis? This brings us to a crucial point. Plato's account wasn't simply a casual tale. It was presented with specific geographical and temporal markers. If we are to take Plato seriously, then we must consider locations in the Atlantic. And this is where the mystery truly deepens, leading us to some of the most startling and contentious claims in the ongoing search for Atlantis. Of the myriad Atlantic possibilities, 2 locations stand out due to persistent anomalies and compelling, if controversial, evidence: the Bimini Road near the Bahamas and the vast unexplored depths off the coast of Spain and Morocco. The Bimini Road, discovered in 1968, is perhaps the most visually provocative piece of evidence for an Atlantic Atlantis. Lying just off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas, it is a submerged formation of roughly rectangular and polygonal limestone blocks stretching about half a mile long. To the untrained eye, it appears unmistakably man-made, a paved road or a collapsed harbor wall, perfectly aligned, precisely what one might expect from a highly engineered Atlantean coastal structure. For proponents like the late Dr. J. Manson Valentine and others who followed in the footsteps of the psychic Edgar Cayce, who predicted the rediscovery of Atlantis near Bimini in 1968, this was the irrefutable proof. However, mainstream geologists quickly countered these claims. Extensive scientific analysis determined the Bimini Road is a natural formation, known as a beach rock formation. This occurs when sand and sediment are cemented together by calcium carbonate in the tidal zone, and as sea levels rise, the formation fractures into the regular blocky shapes seen underwater today. The straight lines and sharp corners, while seemingly artificial, are characteristic of natural jointing patterns in limestone. Yet the controversy persists. Independent divers and researchers argue that some of the stones are too massive, too perfectly fitted, and too precisely positioned to be merely natural formations. They point to the arrangement of the blocks, which appear layered and deliberately placed. The debate over the Bimini Road perfectly encapsulates the core conflict in the Atlantis quest, the collision between compelling, suggestive visual evidence and rigorous, conventional geological explanation. It keeps the dream alive, even as science offers skepticism. A far more plausible and geographically precise contender, adhering strictly to Plato's account of an empire that fought against Athens, emerged in the 21st century. This theory, championed by the American archaeologist Dr. Richard Freund and others, focuses on the vast marshlands of Doñana National Park in Spain, near the city of Cadiz, historically known as Gades, which is close to the Pillars of Hercules. Freund's team utilized advanced subsurface radar, digital mapping, and satellite imagery to study the region. Their research suggested that a series of submerged structures matching the concentric rings described by Plato for the capital city of Atlantis might lie beneath the sprawling marsh. Furthermore, they discovered several strange, ancient memorial cities inland, built by different cultures seemingly to mourn the loss of something great. These memorial cities, they proposed, could have been built by refugees who fled the destruction of Atlantis. The geological mechanism proposed here aligns with a catastrophic event that occurred much closer to Plato's timeline than the Minoan eruption. Around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, the end of the last ice age led to rapid and dramatic sea level rise. While this rise was gradual over centuries, the possibility of a sudden, localized event, such as a series of massive earthquakes and tsunamis caused by tectonic activity in the adjacent Azores-Gibraltar fault zone, could have led to the rapid subsidence and flooding of coastal regions and islands. The crucial difference in the Donyana theory is the interpretation of the catastrophe. Atlantis may not have sunk like a ship, but rather was submerged and entombed in mud and water by a combination of a massive tsunami and subsequent liquefaction of the land due to powerful seismic activity. The island, or perhaps a vast coastal plain, was not dragged into the abyss, but simply covered and entombed in mud and water, making it impassable, as Plato stated. But perhaps the most astonishing claims about Atlantis come from the realm of technology and anthropology, touching on the incredible details Plato provided about their advanced engineering and their strange material, orichalcum. The Atlanteans were said to possess knowledge of harnessing natural energies. Their capital, with its elaborate system of hot and cold water channels, suggests a sophisticated understanding of geothermal or hydraulic power. Their ability to manage and channel water on such a monumental scale, building massive docks and complex irrigation for their central plain, is a feat that few subsequent ancient civilizations, perhaps only the Romans, ever approached. This points to a civilization far beyond the simple Bronze Age era usually assumed. Then there is the mystery of orichalcum. Plato described it as a metal second only to gold in value, shining with a ruddy flash. For centuries, this was thought to be entirely mythical. However, in 2015, archaeologists exploring a sunken shipwreck off the coast of Sicily, believed to be 2,600 years old, discovered 39 ingots of a metal alloy. Analysis confirmed it was largely copper, zinc, and a small amount of iron and nickel, a rare form of brass, a highly prized metal in the ancient world. While not definitive proof of Plato's description, the discovery showed that complex, shimmering alloys with unique names existed and were highly valued, perhaps hinting at the basis for the orichalcum legend. More astonishing is the potential link between Atlantean science and the inexplicable presence of advanced astronomical and mathematical knowledge in cultures globally. How did the Mayans achieve such precision in their calendar system, seemingly predicting astronomical events with technology they shouldn't have possessed? Why do the megalithic stones of ancient sites often align perfectly with solstices and equinoxes? Proponents of the Atlantis theory suggest that this global jump in knowledge was the Atlantean legacy, a transfer of knowledge by the refugees who survived the catastrophe and spread across the globe. This narrative transforms Atlantis from a single sunken island into a global cultural progenitor, explaining the impossible achievements of various ancient cultures. The Egyptian knowledge of mummification, the unique construction methods of megalithic builders, and the shared symbols of sun worship and flood myths across disparate continents suddenly gain a unified, if be it speculative, origin point. The ultimate tragedy of Atlantis, however, lies in its moral lesson. Plato used the story not just to document history, but to deliver a warning. The Atlanteans fell not because their technology failed, but because their spirit failed. Their move from a benevolent, orderly society focused on divine wisdom to a greedy, materialistic, and imperialistic power was their true downfall. Zeus's punishment, the cataclysm, was merely the consequence of their moral bankruptcy. The enduring fascination with Atlantis in the USA, a superpower grappling with its own wealth, technology, and global influence, perhaps stems from this very warning. The myth poses a timeless question: can a civilization possess ultimate power and technological prowess without sacrificing its soul? If Atlantis, with all its splendor, could be wiped from the map in a day and a night due to its own moral failure, what does that say about the fragility of our own modern, technologically dependent world? The search continues. Modern deep-sea mapping and drone technology are allowing us to examine the ocean floor near the Azores and the Spanish coast with unprecedented detail. Each new discovery of an unexplained anomaly, whether a geometric shape on the seabed or a massive underwater rock formation, fuels the debate. Atlantis may remain locked in the realm of legend for now, but the historical, geological, and archaeological evidence, from the catastrophic reality of the Minoan eruption to the compelling formations of the Bimini Road and the precise geographical markers pointing toward the Strait of Gibraltar, suggests one terrifying conclusion. Something extraordinary, powerful, and ultimately doomed did exist beyond the Pillars of Hercules. And that memory, however fragmented, has shaped the myths and mysteries of every subsequent civilization. The greatest secret of the deep sea may not be a discovery, but a historical echo, a silent testament to the impermanence of even the most magnificent human empires.